Alright, hello good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. The long-awaited, long-delayed Sevastopol is finally in port for us to review today. Of course, absolutely massive shout out to the channel's Patreons for making this review possible. I am not a CC nor supported by or associated with wargaming in any way, shape, or form, so I do not get these ships for free. And in the case of ships like the Sevastopol, I have to grind out the lines, and well, either grind out the lines or convert the free XP over to get to the Research Bureau points for Research Bureau ships. Thankfully, I had a pretty pretty significant stockpile of Research Bureau points from previous events left over. So this one didn't cost as much as most other Research Bureau ships did, but the funds from the Patreons definitely still made this review very possible for you guys today. Patreon's the best way to support the channel, besides just, of course, watching the channel and streams. If you wish to do that, link to the Patreon is in the description down below. And again, thank you to those guys for supporting the channel. So, the Sevastopol, if you take a look at it, as usual, the art department, modeling department did an outstanding job here. The ship looks absolutely great. I'm so excited that and look at the shadows too. We finally have the new shadows in the engine. And I don't think this is even the maximum setting yet for the shadows, but they look so much better if you're used to seeing the old... oh, that's right, they added in the sounds for the tabs and stuff. So let's see, shadow quality. Oh no, it's on maximum. Okay, so cool. Mine went up all the way. Excellent. It looks great. It's no longer like super pixelated or anything. It looks great. I'm so glad they're really pushing the envelope with what this game can do now, despite being a 7-year-old game now. But anyway, yes, modeling and art department, guys knocked it out of the park. Ship looks great. Alright, so the Sevastopol. What is the Sevastopol? Well, the ship's real-life history was kind of short. So what we see here, and I got this mixed up last time I talked about the Sevastopol, this was one of the designs for the Kronstadt. Now, I say one of the designs because the Kronstadt that we see right here, this is the original version of the Kronstadt. You're supposed to have 9 305mm guns, but then the Soviets had problems developing their own 305mm guns, and they figured, hey, well, what if we just buy some surplus guns from the Germans and do this? Where did I park it at? Right there. Buy some old German 15-inch guns that, well, these were actually the guns that were supposed to go on the Scharnhorst. But the war broke out, and Germany didn't have the time to refit the Scharnhorst. They couldn't afford for it to sit out at all, so they had these 15-inch guns laying around and agreed to sell them to the Soviet Union. And then, well, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, and that's kind of the end of that. So this is the version of the Kronstadt that was supposed to be finished, but this is the original version of the Kronstadt, which is just, well, the Kronstadt that we have in port in game today. So that's the real-life history of the Sevastopol. It's actually the same ship as the Kronstadt, but with different guns. But anyway, so this ship's gone through quite the development hell, really. It was out for so long that some just started to assume that because of the current situation in Ukraine, and with the port of Sevastopol being one of the contended areas, that Wargaming was just holding it back for that. But no, it's just for balancing reasons, and now she's out and about. So today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Sevastopol and let you guys know if, in my opinion, it is worth the grind or not. Because remember, this is a Research Bureau ship. You can't get the ship for free, but you're going to have to reset a tech line roughly 5 to 6 times, depending upon how you get the bonuses in order to get this ship. If you're looking for a very short line reset, the Japanese gunboat line, the Hirugama line, is your best one for that. But alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the Sevastopol. So, economic bonuses, it does come with the normal tier 10 resource ship economic bonus. Same one like with the Puerto Rico yesterday. For her camouflage, she comes with the... what do they call it? Just default. That was like a, type, whatever. Yep, just the default permanent camo for the Sevastopol, which is, well, pretty bland. Yeah, I mean, it's a ship that was planned to operate into the 50s, so I guess maybe this is like the 1950s version of it with just the flat gray. But, of course, now that camos mean nothing, you can go ahead and slap whatever you want on it, but that is the one that it comes with. And the alternative version is a slightly lighter gray. Alright. So for the ship's armor scheme, I believe it is just the same as the Kronstadt. So 25mm nose, 25mm belt. Let's see the Kronstadt. Oh yeah, it's okay. It's just the Kronstadt. Cool. That's what I suspected. Alright, so her upper armor is 30mm. Main belt's 230mm and 230 below the waterline too. We have a 230mm strip right there. Upper belt is 30mm. Stern is 25 as well. Stern deck's 25. Mid deck is 30. And bow deck is 25 as well. And there's sounds now when you remove parts of the ship. Okay. There's her citadel, same as the Kronstadt, which is not a super hard ship to citadel by any stretch of the imaginations at tier 9. So this ship being at tier 10, yeah. And that is one of the weaknesses of the Kronstadt. She has a big HP pool, but her armor isn't that great. Her survivability comes more from, a tier 9 cruiser that has the same HP as a tier 9 battleship. Speaking of survivability, 62,600 HP on the Sevastopol. The Kronstadt has 71,000. Oh, it has less HP than the Kronstadt. Oof. Wow. Okay. That's... And I don't have a commander in my Kronstadt either, so... Yeah! Alright. 34% torpedo damage reduction. And for her guns, she has the 380mm 15-inch guns. Same guns that our favorite German 15-inch cruiser, the Siegfried, has. So that's another reason why you'll be seeing this ship get compared to Siegfried a lot, because the question is, well, is it a better Siegfried? And quite frankly, just in the armor department, Siegfried's better off the get-go. But back to the Sevastopol. I'll talk more about that when we get to the gameplay section. Alright, so with those 380mm 15-inch guns, you have a 25-second reload time. They 180 in 36 seconds. Maximum dispersion of 165 meters. Maximum base range of 19 kilometers. The HE does a maximum damage of 5,350. You have a 34% chance of causing a fire on the target. They get pinned to 63 millimeters of armor. And they have 820 meters a second initial velocity. The AP shells have a maximum damage of 11,300 and come out the tubes at 820 meters a second as well. Now, she does fire the Soviet AP shells, but for the HE, I think it's also... Let's see, Soviet HE as well. Yeah, because Siegfried over here can pin 95 millimeters of armor with her 15-inch guns. Okay. So with the Soviet AP shells, you get the shorter fuse time, the better air drag characteristics and such, to where it's just, a better shell flying through the air, flies a lot faster, and it probably has a flat shell arc too, if I would have to guess. I haven't played the ship yet, but just going off of how the Soviet shells behave, that's what it's probably got going for it. Secondaries, you get 1,600mm guns. These reload in 4 seconds, have a maximum range of 7.3 kilometers, maximum damage of 1,400, 6% chance of causing a fire on the target, and 17 millimeters of pin, despite coming out the tubes at 1,000 meters a second. Definitely not a secondary ship. Probably just for AA. You get 2 charges of the depth charge aircraft. She had an A rating of 82, and you get 12 of the 57 millimeter guns. And then, yep, the 1,600 millimeter guns are also part of the AA suite. Maximum continuous damage of 356. And then the shells do 1,470 damage, 50% reinforcement for your sectors, and they have a firing range of 5.8 kilometers. It's actually not a bad range. Maneuverability, she is slow at 33.5 knots, although with a speed flag she will be able to go a little bit faster, but it's not one of the faster cruisers without her speed boost, of course. She has a turning circle radius of 980 meters and a rudder shift time of 15.1 seconds. That sounds very Soviet. It's a long turning time and a large turning radius. 13.6 kilometer maximum detection right now, base though. Alright, so for her consumables, you get the engine boost, which gives you a 20% boost to your maximum speed. It's active for 45 seconds, loads in 60 seconds. You get 4 charges of that base. You get a repair party consumable that regens 313 HP per second. Is active for 90 seconds. That's right, 90 seconds. Reloads in 180 seconds. You get 3 charges of this base. This is according to Wargaming, the British Cruiser heal. You get your choice of DFAA or Hydra. I'm going to go ahead and slap Hydra on there right now. 5 kilometer Hydra that's active for 100 seconds, 120 seconds reload time, 3 charges base. And yes, you have to contend with the fast damage con. You only get 3 charges of this on a ship that has battleship burn time. 10-second action time, reloads in 30 seconds, and you get, again, 3 charges of that base. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and throw a commander and module build on this ship. I'll meet you guys right back here in a moment. Alright, so we got Kuznetsov on here. And I went with Last Stand because knowing how Soviet this is, I'm sure the rudders and engines are going to get knocked out constantly. Then I went with Consumable Enhancements for a longer engine boost and Hydro. Adrenaline Rush, so when we take damage, you get a boost to our reload time. Then, Concealment Expert. Back around, and I took Priority Target. Since this is a rather squishy ship, we should know how many ships are going to be aiming at us. Then Heavy AP. Superintendent for another charge of the consumables. And then Survivability Expert for some more health. And by the way, Heavy AP shells, just a straight up 5% buff to the amount of damage your AP shells do. This is literally free damage right here. For the modules build, I went with Main Armaments Mod 1. Just gives the main battery a 20% reduction in the chance of becoming incapacitated. Also gives it a 50% boost to the survivability of the main battery guns and a 20% boost to the repair time of the main battery. Damage Con Mod 1, fires suck, and this reduces the chance of us catching on fire by 5% and the risk of flooding down by 3%. Then I went with Aiming Systems Mod 1 to give us a 7% boost to the dispersion of the main battery guns. Then Damage Con Mod 2 because fires suck, and on a ship with limited damage cons, fires really suck, so we want to cut down the burn time of fires as much as possible, and this cuts that down by 15%. Then we went with Concealment Systems Mod 1 to give us another boost to our concealment by 10%. Then I went with Main Battery Mod 3 to give us a 12% faster reload time. Now, if the ship's anywhere near as accurate, you could put Gunfire Control System Mod 2 and get the range on here and probably be just fine, but we're going to roll with this for now and see how that goes. And there's the combat flags I'm running on the ship as well. So now the guns have a 22-second load time, which is pretty darn good. The maximum dispersion is at 153 meters, and the AP now does 11,865 maximum damage. The ship's maneuverability is now up to 35.2 knots with the speed flag, and the concealment's down to 11 kilometers, which is darn sneaky especially for a super cruiser like this, or a large cruiser now. And then we now have 67,000 hit points. Alright, so that's the building we're running on the Sevastopol. So I'll go ahead and jump into battle and see you guys there with a voiceover review of the Sevastopol. Alright guys, voiceover Mountbatten here, and well, yeah, okay, 9 months of waiting and the ships come out. And I think they missed it with this one pretty good. By that I mean that they're pretty far off from where this ship should be. So, the Sevastopol is a ship that needs a couple of things to go for it to have a good match. It needs to be able to get on a flank, and it needs a team that's willing to spot and support it. Because if you don't have either of those things going for you, you're going to have a pretty not great day. It gives me kind of Slava vibes with that regards, because with the Slava, if you can get on a flank or if you can get broadsides, you're going to have a fantastic game with that 16-inch Soviet AP. Same with the 15-inch Soviet AP. If you can get somebody's side in this thing, they're going to hurt. It's, well, it's going to hurt if the shells connect. And by if the shells connect, I mean that this ship has pretty bad vertical dispersion. The Siegfried's straight up more accurate. I have the same module build on the Siegfried, and the guns are vastly more accurate than the Sevastopols. Now, granted, the Siegfried doesn't have, the Soviet AP, but I mean, like, it's still 15-inch guns with German AP, and I'd rather have guns that hit more consistently than have some Soviet shells that, sure, every now and then, that when multiple shells from that salvo actually connect in the Citadel, the ship's going to go poof every now and then. But the Siegfried just feels so much more consistent in the gun department than the Sevastopol. But yes, if you catch someone's broadside, they are going to get hit, and they are going to have a bad day. If they get hit, they're going to have a bad day. Especially, of course, like Tier 10 cruisers, because of course at Tier 10 we have cruisers that are plenty heavily armored enough to actually arm this thing's AP, and it does have the the short fuse Soviet AP, to where, even though that the shells are flying out the guns at 820 meters a second, it's going to overpin less than like the Siegfried guns will. Sure, that is true, and that does happen. But again, it's a 6-gun cruiser where you're putting anywhere from 2 to 3 shells in the water with every shot, even if your shot's perfectly aimed due to the vertical dispersion. Whereas a Siegfried, if you aim properly, you're probably landing 4 to 5 shells at least every salvo with its 15-inch guns. And I'm bringing the Siegfried up so much because the Siegfried is the other high-tier large cruiser with 15-inch guns in the Research Bureau. So you could get either or of these ships by grounding the same amount of lines. Now, that's about where the good ends with the Sevastopol, because everything else about it is just so weird. So the heel, the heel's, it's a massive heel. You could print back a good chunk of your ship with the heel, and that's true, and I'm sure you guys will see that happen in this match, but my god, it has a 3-minute cooldown time, which you have no heal until that heals off of cooldown. That's quite a minute. And with the way that some higher tier matches go, you can not even get through your second heal before the match ends, because it runs for a minute 20. And yes, it does print back a lot of your ship, but that also means too, in some cases, you're like below half health, but you're not at the full optimum point to where you can pop your heal and get the most HP back from it, but you still got to use it, so you wind up wasting a good chunk of that heal. And if you try to hold on to that heal until you can, utilize 100% of the HP that heal can print back, then now you're just playing a very dangerous game, because you have what is, in my opinion, the worst large cruiser hull in the game, but a tier up. Now, like I said at the start of the video, the Kronstadt's hull's decent at tier 9, especially back in the day, because it was such a ridiculous ship back in the day. And I have a whole video looking at Kronstadt in the past versus now. We didn't have nutty ships like we do now. We didn't have the increase in very large caliber battleships at higher tier. We didn't have any of those ships back in the day. So now you've got that same hull, but it's up to tier 10, and they stripped it of almost 10,000 HP. That really blew my mind when they took that much HP off of it when the Sevastopol first came out, and I forgot about it until I looked at it in port during the port section of this review, and it's like, yeah, why? Because this hull with battleship caliber AP, yes, it does have a pretty large belt armor, so if you are angled enough, obviously that's going to bounce. We have a 25mm bow, 25mm stern, and then your deck's only 30, so that means that the HE, oh my god, HE is your worst enemy in the ship. You have a 60-second battleship burn time on a ship that's very poorly armored for what it is at high tier, in the current high tier meta where we have a ton of rapid fire HE spammy ships. Man, I was trying to push into a Ruprecht. And I had to instantly abandon it because my health just started to get melted in the Sevastopol, more so than any of the other large cruisers because of, the Sevastopol's hull. And if the Ruprecht was clearly IFHE, he was just, man, he rinsed my health so fast that it just can't push by itself. It's a very good gun platform. And the guns on it, again, are pretty decent with the AP. If the Dispersion was a little bit better, I feel like we'd have a really sweet set of guns, and I wouldn't mind playing a ship that's so easily just blapped or melted down at higher tier if I had like some Soviet railguns, to balance it out. But right now, you have to play this ship very, very, very risky to get mediocre rewards. Like, if it was a high risk, high reward ship, the ship has barely any armor on it, it's a glass cannon, but you have some like incredibly awesome set of guns. But because of the way they're set up, and especially the way that higher tier matches are, and with the range that the guns have, you have to play it closer, which you have to wind up doing anyway because no one wants to push anymore. Then yeah, if it was something like that, where I had, again, some railguns that were like Siegfried's level of accuracy or closer to Siegfried's level of accuracy, then yeah, I would say it would make sense. But it's just weird. It's so gimmicky that unless you're doing the gimmick, which is flanking and finding broadside shots, it's just downright mediocre with everything else, especially again for a ship that you have to regrind 5 or 6 lines to get. Speaking about more downsides, the damage cons, you only get 4 base, and they're the quick cooldown damage cons too, so now you're in a situation where you can't pop your heal because you're only down to half health, and if you pop it now, you're going to be basically wasting it, but yet you're on fire. But yet you don't want to use your damage cons because you only get 5 of them, the Superintendent, but yet, you're in the current meta where you're probably going to be set on fire again the second you use it. You guys see what I'm saying here? Like, the ship just melts instantly. So, going back to what I said, you need team support for this ship. You need someone spotting, you need someone around you to tank for you, because the second you get focused on this thing, you're having a bad time. Now, they did say it's meant to be like an ambusher, like you pop in, take a shot, then run away. Okay, well, the speed boost, you only get 4 charges of that, and it doesn't last for that long, so now the speed boost that you're supposed to use to, pop in and pop out, you're out of charges. This is the only ship that I consistently ran out of engine boost charges in. And I play a lot of Kaba and Kleber, alright? It's just, man, it's such an odd design choice. And like every consumable, they picked like the gimmickiest consumable, short runtime engine boost, the mega long hill that has a 3-minute cooldown time. The Hydro's normal, that's about it. And then you've got the cruiser hull, the large cruiser hull that used to have a large amount of hit points but poor armor, so you kind of made up for the amount of hit points you had. But now we got rid of the over the top amount of hit points. Now you have just a cruiser hull with a massive citadel and poor armor, especially compared to the other large cruisers. And all of that to have 15-inch Soviet AP over the Siegfried. Meanwhile, the Siegfried, you get much more consistent guns. Siegfried has some amazingly accurate 15-inch guns with much better armor than the Kronstadt. And it's no comparison, it's no contest in my mind that Siegfried is the much better choice if you want a 15-inch cruiser with 6 15-inch guns at tier 9 or 10. And Siegfried's a tier 9, so Siegfried can see tier 7s. And really laugh at some tier 7 battleships. Sevastopol can't do that, and it doesn't have radar. So it's the only Soviet tier 10 cruiser without radar. So yeah, my final opinion of the Sevastopol is that it's like, man, and it's like a 6 out of 10. If it had a little bit more accurate guns, it would be more along the lines of a 7, and I would say that one day it'd be worth picking up. But right now, it's not really worth picking up, in my opinion, especially when you have this Siegfried that's still available. So the pros being, it does have 15-inch guns on a cruiser. That is quite a heavy set of guns to have on a cruiser. It does have the Soviet AP with the improved pin angles and the improved drag, air drag coefficient and all that jazz. It does have hydroacoustic search. It does have a pretty good heal when you can utilize all of it, but the problem is utilizing all of it. It does get an engine boost, But the downsides are it's a massive ship with very poor armor for this type of ship at its tier. It's got a huge citadel. You wind up wasting the heal more times than actually like being able to make use of it. Low number of charges for your engine boost and for your damage con, and poor vertical dispersion on these guns. I don't know if they just gave up trying to balance it and just shoved it out. It is what it is. It's unfortunately a pretty big letdown for my mind, because it was a pretty interesting ship. It was a historical design, and we already had, the other one in game with the Kronstadt. And this one comes out, and it's just kind of meh. I wouldn't say it's garbage by any stretch of the imagination. It's nowhere near as good as the other offerings that the Soviets have at Tier 10. The Petropavlovsk, a great close-in ship. Moskva, excellent mid-range ship. Stalingrad, good long-range and mid-range ship. Then, of course, you got the Nevsky and so forth and so on. So, yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know, weird. It's such a weird boat. Again, it seems like they just took the most gimmicky version of every consumable and put it on this ship. Again, we can get on the flanks and you can get something's broadside. It'll put in the work and it'll work. But in every other game, when you can't do that because the teams are so passive nowadays, you can't even fall back on your HE because your HE isn't that great. Again, like we talked about in port, she doesn't get the German HE pins where you don't have to worry about anything. You can pin everybody's deck armor and stuff. You don't have that anymore. And yeah, it's not worth the grind in my mind. Siegfried's a much better option, especially if you like the sniper gameplay, because again, the Siegfried's guns are much more accurate and much more consistent than the Sevastopol's guns. So that's my 2 cents on Sevastopol, guys. It's not worth the grind. Get Siegfried instead, or save your Research Bureau points for whatever else they're going to release next. So guys, that's my review of the Sevastopol, the new Tier 10 Soviet resource large cruiser. Again, let me know what you guys think about the Sevastopol in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Thursday. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 40,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday, have a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.